lots of different things were coming apparent during the course of the movie. I had a lot of questions, and they all got answered for me. The little bits of film strip connecting all the pieces, and the little and the Bali music before we even got to Bali, and all that. And so, you said it's a story about a lot of things, but it's a New York story for sure, and a neighborhood story, and a New York story. But it's also autobiography. It's also a filmmaking story, and that's the film clips that connect it all. It's like it's about being a filmmaker and about the art of making films. It's also a transition story. It's a father and son story, and the parallels that you draw between Bali and New York, and the fathers and sons, and the culture, and transitions, changes in both the culture and in the relationships and so forth. So, a lot to do, and it begs the question of, you got to make your Bali film. In a way.
I suppose so, yeah.
In a way. So how long did you shoot on this film? Because we got a lot of footage from before that your father got to comment on, and then he passed. When did he pass exactly?
2 years ago in March. Yeah.
Okay, and you started filming this?
In 2010.
2010. Okay, and what went on, besides running the restaurant, what went on in that period of time of making the film? How often were you shooting? How much did you put together? How much did you go to Bali? All those things. Unwrap that for us.
I mean, there was no intention of making a documentary whatsoever. I was in Bali in 2008, 9. On working on that project. My father had a stroke in 2010, so I sort of abandoned that project abruptly. It was towards the end. I didn't have much left to do, but I abandoned that project abruptly to come back. And I was working with Greg at the time. we would do hotel videos for the Sheraton. Sheraton was hiring us to do hotel videos for on the Eastern Seaboard, so we would. You know, when you walk into a hotel and you see on the lobby like those sweeping panning shots of like in the rooms and stuff, we would do those things. And and on the weekends, we would have to return all the gear on Monday. So we usually do that during the week, and then on the weekends we have to keep the gear in our house and return everything on Monday. So I would shoot. You know, I would use the camera during the weekends. As I was getting more involved in the restaurant, I felt like, you know, things were slipping away from me cinematically. So it was a sort of a cathartic thing. I was just doing it. But no intention to make a film, especially a film about myself, which I thought was the most pretentious thing you can do. And then as I started to get more involved in the restaurant and I became sort of a more centralized figure, I've realized that there was really no escape from me being a part of the story. And then at that point, I think I needed some help with some objectivity. And so I asked Greg to come and help me with, and we were working on these hotel videos together, so it just made sense.
Well, that's a good thing. When you decided you were going to make the documentary, I mean, you had to go back to Bali, or you had to take that footage and tell the story of your dream when you came back, because you didn't do that before you came back.
Right.
So you had to go back and do that.
Right.
So there had to be a time at which you said, okay, I'm going to make a documentary.
Yeah, I mean, even till the kind of the end, it wasn't really clear. I mean, we had when we had sort of realized the concept that we wanted to make, an actual movie. There were some editors in the beginning. It didn't really work out. We weren't really getting anywhere. And then I had a friend of mine that I went to NYU with who knew me for 20 plus years, and or I guess 30 years now, and who knew the restaurant. And so I just was giving him all the footage we had that had anything to do with RAOUL'S whatsoever. And then, in that footage, there was mixed in with some of this Bali stuff. And so, my friend was like, well, what is this stuff? He said, well, it's this story about this father and the son, gentrification of the island, blah, blah, blah. It's nothing to do with this. He said, well, isn't that the same movie that we're doing now? I said, well, I guess so. And they said, well, we should use it. And I was like, I don't know if that has anything to do with this. And he said, well, but anyway, it worked out.
So, Greg, did you get on board to go back to do the shooting in Bali as well?
No, I was only on board to eat steak au poivres.
And who wouldn't be?
That's literally how, like, when I met Karim, we were working on, like, as he said, really crappy hotel videos and working on some of my films. And he said, I have this restaurant that my dad owns, and we're filming. I just want to get footage in the can, and can we use the cameras, and can you help me? And I don't have money, but I'll pay you in food. And that's been that way for 15 years.
And you did travel to Bali?
No, I've never been to Bali. Wait, the sequel, we're going to do that there.
Okay, so you went back to shoot the pictures of your friend Karim growing up, and then you went back again.
Well, all the Bali stuff I had done during my sort of stay there in 2008-9. The only thing that I shot afterwards was that interview with him where he's coming to that realization that he didn't want to be a gangster anymore, that maybe, the priesthood was his way. That was the only thing that was the new, sort of post the film concept.
And the parallels that you drew a very clear line on, but were sort of uncanny when your father saying he was a monk, he'd always been a monk, and then Karim's father being a priest, and those kinds of different things, and talking about transitions. That footage just cut together so beautifully. The priest talking about Hindu transitions, and your father talking about transitions. That was all very, very moving. So the editing process, it became something other than you just turning over your footage to your pal.
Yeah, I mean, once the Bali footage became a reality, then once we all kind of agreed that yes, this was like this crazy metaphor, then we embraced it obviously, and it became easier to deal with.
So, can you tell us a little more about the restaurant opened across the street? What was that? How did that come about exactly? You just said, "Hey, this restaurant business is crazy. I love it. Let's go. Let's open another one."
It was. I think it was a bit of a. It was a bit of a release for me to get out of the craziness of the weight of RAOUL'S, not from a filmmaking standpoint, but from a business perspective where. It was so, it became so heavy, it was so hard for people to get in there, and it was like it'd just be grown into this thing. And I wanted to kind of come back to the roots of, of what RAOUL'S was in the beginning and how it came about. And so I wanted to do this thing across the street. It just seemed like the answer, the antithesis to that.
Well, it's just getting a hold of all the people that you got a hold of too, and going to the French Laundry and all the other things with your father. When did that happen?
That was 2012, right? I think we were out.
And getting the other chefs to come to the restaurant and to talk about it. That
was all after. We had when we went to go see Thomas. That was right around the time when we had thought that maybe there was a movie there, that there was something shaping up. But even then, it was a long shot.
And were you in the kitchen when that whole transition happened with your uncle and Thomas in the kitchen?
No, I was. Raquel closed in '89, and then Thomas went through some sort of dark years after that. I think there were some years where he was. Bouncing around before French Laundry happened. Then I was, I started working at RAOUL'S in '93.
Okay.
And I worked through film school, and then I kind of came back to it. When I came back, I was living in Paris at the time, working on a bunch of movies and documentaries. And I came back in 2007, and I started working with Greg, and then I would do side work at the restaurant.
Well, it's just incredible, and to see all the different people from the history of RAOUL'S as they had aged a little bit, but
as we all did,
as we all do, but in different ways. But they offered such great perspectives on it. So, and did you, when you had all this Bali footage, and you had the footage that you were getting with you and Greg, and then how much did you have to do with cutting it all together, and the devices of introducing that Bali music early on, and the little film strips that are going in between all the scenes?
That's literally the edit. I think the Bali footage was not ever thought to be part of this film. Karim was making a film in Bali, trying to make it. He got sucked into the restaurant. He stopped. He would go back. His idea, from what I remember, he was never trying to incorporate anything Bali into this story. But as it came to a head, it realized it was the same story, and the editor realized that. And when Karim said we had a few editors that didn't work out well, he's literally talking about me. I cut this film 2 times over COVID when I worked on 2 versions of it, and I never wanted to touch the Bally stuff because it's so much. It's a bigger story. You start adding that, and then the editor, his friend, looked at it and said, "I think there's this the same story that you made, Karim." And then we let him run with it, and he should get all the credit because he makes us look really good. He took this Bally footage, he took the footage that we shot together, and made a movie out of it. And it feels like, I feel like you're looking for like, how did you guys plan this? And we did not at all plan it. The editor did this.
No, but that is the question: is how did you stitch it all together, and how did it come out?
Yeah, there's a lot of work. There's hundreds of hours of footage, right?
Of course.
And then a really good editor can look at something and see a little nuance of like, there's a through line here, or that's similar to that, or there's a metaphor here. And then he started working on it and chipping away at it, and then we started to fall in love with the idea of going back and forth to Bally. And then he threw the music in the front, and then people were like, I had no idea I thought I was watching a movie about a restaurant, and it starts with Bally music and what's going on here. And I think a good film is like a story that you don't know what you're getting yourself into, and it might be a little confusing and takes you a while to understand where you're going. And I think the editor did a great job of that. So
no, I think a fantastic bit of filmmaking all the way around, and that does bring the viewer in. It's like, okay, what's this music about?
Yeah, you're like, what's happening here, right? And that makes you pay more attention, I think.
And the same thing with a little bit of film strip that's going in between. It's like, what are we doing here? What's going on? But that all resolves itself and answers itself. One more question before I turn it over to the audience. Where did that little "I want to make a movie" thing come from? That was crazy.
That was a movie a short film made in RAOUL'S by a busboy at the time. I think it was made in '87 by a busboy named Pepe Denise, who was a great photographer and still is. And he made this film just out of the blue. And I always had a copy of that film that my father had gave me. And Pepe was always, around the restaurant. He retired, and he always had a great photography career. But he left the restaurant in the '90s. So the walls are still adorned with his pictures. So it was something that just made sense to me, because it was like the mantra of my existence was
exactly.
Exactly.
I mean,
I want to make
so
a movie,
perfectly.
and it was all filmed in the restaurant, and it was about food, and the conflict of my life.
It fit so perfectly. It was very odd, but it fit so perfectly. I thought that was amazing. So we have time for some questions from the audience. Probably a lot of RAOUL'S diners in here. Am I right?
Who's been to RAOUL'S here? Raise your hand. Oh, nice. A good bunch of folks. Does that make you want to go eat there again?
So do you have a question for the filmmakers? Right here in the middle. Just wait for a microphone, please. Microphone coming your way. It's being passed across. Here we go.
Hi. Your restaurant's great. I've been going there since the mid-'80s. Could you tell me a little bit more about RAOUL'S, where it was, how long it lasted when it started? You mentioned it ended in '89. What type of food, how different it was? Just 2-3 minutes about that.
Yeah, Raquel, well, as you know, was RAOUL'S and Keller. It was on Clarkson and Barrack Street. It started. They opened in '86. And then it closed in '89, so it was a short run, but it was a very ambitious project, and it was the first foray for Thomas to do his thing, and I think my father wanted to try to do as much as he could for Thomas, to try to give him as much platform as he could, but like he says in the movie, it just never clicked. It was just two diametrically opposed things trying to come together, and maybe now it would have worked, but I think back then it was just too crazy of a thought. But it was a beautiful restaurant, and when I see pictures of it now, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe how did you guys pull that off? So it's I have a great respect for it, and I think it like it says in the movie, I mean, thank God that it didn't work, because maybe there wouldn't be any French Laundry now. So.
It's great.
The room in the back through the kitchen.
Oh yeah. So do I.
Well, that must have been just an amazing amount of money to do that.
Yeah. I think there was a huge amount of investment that all came from Raoul's, and well, you know how that played out. So.
Yeah, exactly. Way in the back. Can you get a microphone, please?
When the bank turned down Keller at first with the French Laundry, what was it that your dad did that helped him out, that Keller gave him so much credit for, and what does that say about your dad?
Well, I guess it's a bit of a touchy subject, but there was some tax debt that needed to be paid first before there was any loan to be done. So they satisfied that, and then. But they always stayed friends, They were always, and it goes back a lot farther than Raquel too. I mean, when we had an apartment in Paris for a long time, and Thomas lived there while he was staging in Paris and all that stuff. So it was, it goes back a long way.
We have time for, I think, one more question. Anyone? What? Where did we? Oh, somewhere. There it is.
How late are you open?
Kitchen's open until 12 on Friday, Saturday.
Yes, if you're one of 1,400 people that can get in.
And then 11 on the rest of the week. Yeah.
And I saw there was a producing partner, one of the producing partners was Resi. So you have a relationship with Resi?
I'll let you take it.
Yeah, they came in at the end and helped us get it over the finish line. It was nice. It's a hard thing to fund a documentary film.
Of course.
And you just try to get money. You feel like a hustler trying to get money out of any place you can. And Resi came forward, and they were a good little partner and helped us over the finish line.
And how's your experience with Resi? It's been good? I mean,
Yeah, they've been great.
In the restaurant business, yeah.
We had basically almost finished the film, but we needed, like Greg said, we needed to get it over the line, and they've been great. Yeah.
So, but as a restaurateur, I wonder, you must have had, back in the day, you must have had reservations by the telephone. And so that transition, when that came about with Open Table and Resi and all those other things, what's that been like, the transition between the one to the other?
I have to say that this is one of those cases where it is a lot easier. It's like, typewriter versus a computer. I mean, although now, a lot of people are reverting back.
Yeah, me too.
So, I mean, and I understand both sides of that. Maybe we'll do that.
Okay.
But Resi did say that Raoul's was like the 7th hardest restaurant to get into in New York. Like had the 7th, right? Didn't they say that? As far as like a waiting list, it's like the 7th longest waiting list in New York, which is kind of amazing. Like he says casually I'm asking him on camera, how many people are on the waiting list? He's like, there's like 1,400 people trying to get in. I'm like, when? He's like, tonight. You imagine being on the 1,400 person waiting list trying to get into a restaurant? Like, that's kind of amazing. And so technology allows that list to get that long.
Yeah,
so it's kind of amazing. So that he's got this little restaurant with 1,400 people. And that was like on a Wednesday.
But maybe in 1985, there was 1,400 people who wanted to come.
Thinking about going.
You didn't know.
Do we have one? This guy's got a mic. One last question.
Please.
I just wanted to say, you're a very fortunate man.
I know. I think.
And you know why? Because you had the opportunity of saying and expressing your feelings toward your father and the other people in the world which you didn't have the time to speak to. You're a very fortunate man. My sincere, very compliments.
Thank you so much.
And the
Thank you.
best.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a great place to wrap it up. Thanks very much. Don't forget to turn in your ballots as you go out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.